Welcome back to my channel, my dear aspirants. We are going to do short and crispy revision of Jan to June 2025 Environment Current Affairs. We have already learned Jan to May 2026 Environment Current Affairs. This video is specifically curated for UPSC Prelims 2026 and it important for other examination also, banks, SSC, defense examination. So let's start the next update of January to June. January 2026 environment milestones were dominated by extreme weather, global resource warnings, and strict domestic policy shift in India. So, key development include record-breaking temperature anomalies, the announcement of global water bankruptcy, and a major update to India's waste management regulation. So there is a record-breaking temperature abnormalities, anomalies. So global climate and weather, the fifth warmest January, global average surface temperature hit 12.95 degrees Celsius, which is 1.47 degrees Celsius ever pre-industrial levels. It is about January 2026, not 2025. Hemispheric divide, the northern hemisphere experienced localized frigid cold snaps while the southern hemisphere, particularly Australia, Chile, and Argentina. Global water bankruptcy. The United Nations University released the global water bankruptcy reports indicating that long-term water use has permanently breached safe replacement limits. In India, focus and policy updates. What are news about the India in focus and policy updates? Replenishment means to replenish anything, means to renew anything. So permanently breach safe replenished limits. So global water bankruptcy indicate that long-term water use has permanently breached safe replenished limits. In India, focus and policy updates, solid waste management SWM rules 2026. India notifies the SWM rules 2026, which mandate four-stream source segregation of waste. Wet, dry, hazardous, sanitaries. Previously, we know about the three-stream segregation. Now it is wet, dry, hazardous, sanitary, four-stream source segregation, solid waste management, SWM rules 2026. It establishes a strict pollution pre-framework. Severe air quality crashes in mid-January 2025. Daily air quality index crossed the 500 mark. Reports from the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air highlighted the pollution impose heavy economic and public health losses on the country. Now, next news about the Sonabeda Wildlife Sanctuary. So, Odisha Sonabeda Sanctuary was declared moist-free, opening the door for wildlife trekking and revealing a thriving population of over 70 leopards. Now we are going to start 2025 environment updates from January. January to June, in this video, we are going to update ourselves. January 2025 Environment Current Affairs featured major global climate milestone and critical domestic policy rollouts on India. So key highlights include the United Nations declaring 2025 International Year of Glacier Preservation, Chhattisgarh becoming India's first state to adopt green GDP, and Pune planning the country's first low emission zone in Shivaji Nagar. So, what are the key important points about the January 2025 environment updates? United Nations declared 2025 the International Year of Glacier Preservation. United Nations. Now about the India, Chhattisgarh becoming India's first state to adopt green GDP, and Pune planning the country's first low emission zone in Shivaji Nagar. So global climate and environmental milestone, warmest January on record. The European Union Copernicus Climate Change Service announced that January 2025 was the warmest January globally, with surface air temperature 0.79 degrees Celsius above the 1991-2020 average. International Year of Glacier Preservation, the United Nations officially designated 2025 to raise awareness of the critical role glaciers play in the global ecosystem, combating rapidly accelerating melting rates, Next update is about global forest goals. United Nations Forum on Forest prepared the baseline rollout for the Global Forest Goal Report, tracking progress on reversing deforestation and improving sustainable forest management worldwide. So, Global Climate Environment Milestone January 2025, warmest January on record, International Year of Glacier Preservation by United Nations, a Global Forest Goal also by the United Nations Forum to improve to track progress on reversing deforestation and improving sustainable forest management worldwide. National initiative and policy in India on January 2025, Chhattisgarh Green GDP about India. Chhattisgarh became the first state in January 2025. First state in India to integrate forest ecosystem services into its traditional economic calculation, setting a precedent for state level ecological accounting. So it's important point. Now Pune's become low emission zone. Low emission zone. Pune announced plans to establish India's first low emission zone (LEZ) in Shivaji Nagar to heavily restrict vehicle pollution in the central business district. Ministry of Environment 2025 review, India made notable strides in habitat and air quality management. Over 103 cities recorded reduction in particulate matter 10 levels, and new Ramsar wetland site were officially sites were officially recognized on January 2025 to further wetland conservation efforts. Biodiversity and conservation, Ramsar milestone, India added 11 new Ramsar sites to its network on Jan 2025, establishing the highest total 96 in Asia. Indore and Udaipur received national designation as India's first Ramsar wetland site. So it is an important point. Riverine heat waves, the ecological impacts of riverine heat waves on aquatic ecosystem in Indian river basin gained major research traction, highlighting the risk posed to freshwater biodiversity. Tiger conservation drives also launched. India reforms the Special Tiger Protection Force (STPF) and increased surveillance and utilizing unmanned aerial vehicles to combat poaching and habitat degradation. So, Ramsar milestones, India added 11 new Ramsar sites to its network, establishing the highest total 96 in Asia. Indore and Udaipur received national designation as India's first Ramsar wetland sites. Cities. February 2025 Environment Current Affairs. It's were marked by historic biodiversity funding, record low global sea ice, and key climate adaptation shift nationally. Measured reports highlight extreme Indian weather patterns and improving, accelerating, increasing, enhancing circular economy measures, while preparedness kicked off for the global plastic pollution agenda. So the global plastic pollution agenda was there in the February 2025. Global and international events, historic biodiversity funding. Following negotiation in Rome, nations agreed on a framework to mobilize $200 billion annually by 2030 to combat global biodiversity loss, focusing heavily on supporting conservation efforts in developing countries. Now, next update is record low global sea ice. So, climate researchers reported unprecedented drops in global sea ice. Arctic's level dropped to 8% below average, while the Antarctic recorded a dramatic 26% decrease, underscoring accelerating climate change. So, the key point to the Arctic region dropped 8% below average, and Antarctic recorded a dramatic 20% decrease. Roadmap to World Environment Day. The Republic Day of Korea ramped up its preparation to host World Environment Day, putting a global spotlight on the fight to end plastic pollution. Theme is to combat plastic pollution. In national and local India focus, State of India's Environment 2025 released on February 26, the annual report by the Center for Science and Environment CSC and Down to Earth revealed the in India experienced extreme weather condition on 255 out of 274 days in the first 9 months of the previous year. India's adaptation focus, India strategically shifted its officially climate diplomacy from strict emission mitigation to prioritizing adaptation strategies. The strategies are like climate resilient infrastructure, flexible energy transition, and owing to develop National falling short on global climate finance promises. So India's adaptation focus is to prioritize adaptation strategies. Now about the waste management and urban initiative in on February the Ministry 2025, the Ministry of Environment accelerated circular economic policies with over 70,000 producer and recyclers registered on the Extended Policy Responsibility EPR portal. The portal name is EPR. Concurrently, Pune began developing India's first low emission zone in Shivaji Nagar to curb to reduce central business district air pollution. March 2025 environmental current affairs were likely defined by landmark National Wildlife Summits in Gujarat, National Wildlife Summit in Gujarat, and critical progress on India's ecological preservation project, including the expansion of Project Cheetah, mangrove restoration, and targeted species recovery plans for gharials and Great Indian Bustard. Key national and international initiatives are National Board for Wildlife Meetings and BWL meeting. The Prime Minister chaired the 7th National Board for Wildlife meeting at Gir National Park in Gujarat on World Wildlife Day. Key announcement included launching conservation plan for Great Indian Bustard and gharials. And the other initiatives are, first one is to launch a conservation plan for Great Indian Bustard and gharial. Second is to expand Project Cheetah to Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary and boosting Asiatic line ranges. Third is to stabilize a national referral center for wildlife in Junagadh and Center for Excellence at the Wildlife Institute of India. So these are the National Board for Wildlife meeting happened on March 2025. Riverine dolphin reports released in March 2025. The estimation report identified 6,327 dolphin in major river basin. Mangrove and forest achievement. India's Misti Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes program gained significant momentum with thousands of hectares of degraded coastal mangroves undergoing ecological restoration. About biodiversity in protected areas, new tiger and elephant reserve, the Environment Ministry released update confirming the addition of new Madhav Tiger Reserve in MP. Madhav Tiger Reserve in MP and an increase in National Elephant Reserve to 33. India's total protected areas expanded to over 1,100. India's first low emission zone, Pune, it is Pune now, announced plans to establish India's first low emission zone in Shivaji Nagar to heavily restrict and monitor vehicular emission in core central business district. About global and climate change, global initiative focus pivoted toward pre COP30 strategies. This targeting COP30 already I explained in my previous video. So COP30 strategy targeting reduction in global carbon emission alongside the ongoing push for the International Big Cat Alliance. So it is a very important point. In April 2025, major environment developments focus on national emission regulation, transitioning to clean energy, green energy. So key highlights included the notification of greenhouse gases, CO2, ozone, methane like gases, emission intensity target rules, the expansion of green hydrogen initiative, ambitious state level policies to boost EV adoption, electrical vehicle adoption. So in April 2025, these major environmental developments took place. Key national policy and initiatives, greenhouse gases emission intensity target rules 2025. It is notified by the Ministry of Government, Forest and Climate Change. This rule establishes a robust, strong framework aimed at strictly tracking and regulating emission intensity across major industrial sectors. Now, next national policies are biofuel blending mandates. India implemented 1% biogas blending target for various fuels, taking an important step toward reducing dependence on conventional energy sources and supporting the nation's net zero emission objectives. Now, Maharashtra EV policy 2025, the state introduced a sweeping electric vehicle policy to alleviate range anxiety by significantly upgrading charging infrastructure and accelerating the transition to clean urban support. So it is about the Maharashtra EV policy 2025. Now, green hydrogen catalysis, researchers in catalyst studies made major breakthrough in proton absorption behavior. So this advancement aimed to drastically improve the efficiency of electrocatalyzed for large scale, cost effective green hydrogen production. Global climate updates, rising temperature. Climate scientists observe the global temperatures remain exceptionally warm, tied to the intense weather anomalies seen in preceding years, and underscoring the urgency for global climate action. So, what are the agreements which are associated with global climate? The agreement is known as a Paris Agreement. The primary and most significant national treaty addressing climate change is the Paris Agreement. So, it's not about that. I'm just included this in the agreement which is associated with climates, global climate is Paris Agreement. So it is a part of a broader historic framework of global treaties. It is managed by the United Nations to reduce greenhouse gas emission like methane, CO2, ozone, and manage global warming. So the landmark of Agreement was adopted on December 12, 2015 at the United. Something about the Paris Agreement we are going to acknowledge. The landmark Paris Agreement was adopted on December 12, 2015 at the United Nations Climate Change Conference COP21 in Paris, France. So it officially entered into force on November 4, 2016. So the legally binding international treaty focuses on climate change mitigation, reduction, adaptation, and finance. Its core Paris Agreement course objective are to limit temperature rise, hold the global average temperature increases to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, with a focus on limiting it to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The main target is to reduce up to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The Paris Agreement requires countries to report and update their nationally determined contribution NDC every 5 years to increase global climate action. While the 2015 adoption in Paris is the foundational basis of the treaty, the operational details, the Paris rule book were finalized at COP24 in Katowice in 2018 and subsequently COP26 in Glasgow. So these are the important points. Paris Agreement adopted on December 12, 2015 at United Nations Climate Change in Paris, France. Officially entered into force on November 4, 2016. 2015 adoption in Paris is the foundation basis of the treaty. The operational details were finalized at COP24 in Katowice in 2018 and subsequently at COP26 happened in Glasgow. Core climate agreements are the Paris Agreement 2015 is the definitive current globally treaty. It legally binds nearly 200 nations to keep global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels while actively pursuing efforts to limit 1.5 degrees Celsius. Nation must submit voluntary emission reduction plan called nationally determined contribution every 5 years. In every 5 years. Now, next one is a climate agreement is the Kyoto Protocol 1997, the first major implementation mechanism under United Nations framework. It set legally binding emission reduction targets predominantly for industrialized developed nation. While it is still technically active, the Paris Agreement has effectively surpassed it on a global scale. Next agreement is UNFCCC 1992. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is the foundational treaty signed at the Rio Earth Summit. So it established the framework for international climate diplomacy and created the annual conference of the parties COP Global Summits. Related environmental agreements also, another environmental agreements are Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol 2016, while the original 1987 Montreal Protocol was built to fix ozone layer. This recent amendment explicitly target the phase down of hydrofluorocarbons, which are potent greenhouse gases driving global warming. Environment current affairs in May 2025 were dominated by record-breaking extreme weather events in India and significantly advancement in global climate policies. So India's climate extremes and unprecedented May record daily rains. Daily experience is wettest May since 1901, recording 186.4 millimeter of rainfall by May 25, shattering the previous 2008 record. So it has broken the previous 2008 record. Early monsoon onset took place. The southwest monsoon arrived in Kerala on May 24, a week ahead of the usual June 1st date, and they reached Mumbai by May 26, marking its earliest arrival in 25 years. National statistic driven by high incidence of western disturbance, India has recorded its wettest May since 1901, receiving double its usual. About global climate and ecosystem in May 2025, nature record heat May 2025 was second hottest May ever recorded globally, remaining roughly 1.4 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels according to Copernicus Climate Change Service. Cyclone and mangrove risk, a major study published in May, warned that climate change is intensifying, aggravating tropical cyclones and shifting their belts, which could put half of the world's mangroves at severe risk of degradation by 2100. India Environment and Policy and Conservation AI Forest Alert System. Madhya Pradesh became the, now again the important key point, Madhya Pradesh became the first state in India to pilot AI-based real-time forest alert system, integrating satellite data and machine learning to improve sustainable forest management. Safeguarding, next one is the safeguarding urban forests. The ecological threats facing India's rapidly expanding cities came to the forefront, sparking debates on protecting important green lungs like Kancha, Gachibowli urban forest in Hyderabad. So, safeguarding urban forest and India's environmental policy. Next one is a judicial rulings. The Supreme Court of India struck down retrospective environmental clearances, reinforcing strict adherence to ecological accountability and the rule of law. Retrospecting means pondering, thinking. Key June 2025 environments development included World Environment Day, June 5th, focusing on the global fight against plastic pollution. India notably launched Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam campaign in New Delhi and achieved a major renewable energy milestone by crossing 50% installed capacity from non-fossil fuels 5 years ahead of schedule. So, Global Environment highlights World Environment Day hosted by Republic of Korea. The Zone 5 observance centered on ending plastic pollution to prevent environmental and biological degradation. Global clean energy investments projects. This projection confirmed clean energy investment had hit $2.2 trillion, double the investment of fossil fuels, with China doubling its clean energy investment to over $6 to 5 billion over the decade. Now, about the climate records, the World Meteorological Organization State of Global Climate Report highlighted that 2015-25 decade was the hottest on record, with global temperature reaching 1.43 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial averages. National and local initiatives took place in India in June 2025. Renewable energy milestone, India officially crossed 50% mark in installed capacity from non-fossil fuels, achieving its major nationally determined contribution 5 years ahead of 2030 target. Next mission is Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam. Prime Minister Modi led a tree planting drive on June 5th at Bhagwan Mahabir Manasthali Park in New Delhi, trying it into the border Aravali Green Wall project to restore vegetation across 700-kilometer range. Then again, the Ramsar wetland cities. India expanded its Ramsar wetlands tally to 96, the highest in Asia, while recognizing Udaipur and Indore as India's first designated wetland site. So, mangrove and afforestation, over 4,536 hectares of mangroves were restored under the Misti Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitat and Tangible Incomes Program, and 75 new projects were sanctioned under Nagar One Yojana. So, why these cities were chosen as Ramsar sites? Udaipur and Rajasthan. Udaipur, Rajasthan, known as City of Lakes, Udaipur boasts a network of iconic interconnection water bodies, including Lake Pichola, Fateh Sagar, and Sarup Sagar. So, these wetlands are important for maintaining local microclimate, supporting rich biodiversity, and sustaining the city's ecological heritage. So, these are the reason of sitting as the Ramsar sites. Udaipur, Rajasthan, and Indore, Madhya Pradesh, are India's pioneering designated Ramsar wetland site, making history as the first urban centers in the country to receive this international accreditation under the Ramsar Convention. Second is the Indore, Madhya Pradesh. Indore's recognition is anchored by Sirpur wetlands, a designated Ramsar site. This Ramsar site aggregated highlight the city ability to balance rapid urban expansion with strict wetland conservation and sustainable water management practices. So, as of 2026, India's network of globally recognized wetlands of international importance has expanded to 99 sites. This vast networks, the highest in South Asia, cover over 1.38 million hectares across 28 states and union territories. Tamil Nadu, important point, Tamil Nadu holds the highest concentration, boasting 20 designated Ramsar sites. So these are about till Zone 2000, January to June 2025 environmental current affairs. Tomorrow I'm going to upload July to December 2025 environmental current affairs. My dear aspirants, best of luck for your UPSC pre-exams and another exam. Keep consistent, beta. Maintain your consistency. Best of luck, my mere bachche.